faith-based organizations. There are all sorts of powerful people and interests in South Africa. Acting without favor means that you don't hold back when somebody whom you respect or should respect or once respected errs on the side of breaking the law. You deal with them even-handedly, whether they are your friends or your enemies. Anybody who's broken the law must be dealt with without favor. And of course, without prejudice means without prejudice to the public weal. And as matters stand at the moment, our criminal justice administration is not getting that right.
Yes. Now, you raise an important aspect here, Advocate Hoffman, where we speak about neutralizing the capacity of the criminal justice system. And this obviously has got serious consequences, far-reaching consequences, particularly when it comes to people who have been guilty of looting and state capture as well, to enjoy immunity and even impunity.
Yes, I think one of the problems is that those involved in the state-owned enterprises and in the departments of state that have been looted during the process of state capture have well-founded fears that they will suffer if they do anything to track, to trace, to investigate, to freeze, and to recover the loot of state capture. And we're talking about more than R1 trillion on the table there. I saw the advert just before we started this interview, and people are struggling to feed themselves in South Africa at the moment. And South Africa has all of this loot, which could be returned to our public coffers and could be used for poverty alleviation and the improvement of the lot of more than half of the people in the country who are in dire straits because of COVID, because of loss of employment, and indeed because they are unemployable and have never been employed, some of them.
Yes. Now, obviously, when one looks at how the scenario has played out over a period of time, and we know in terms of how the former president Jacob Zuma obviously dealt with the capacity to deal with corruption, and also when looking at where we are today with people like Ace Magashule, for instance, as well, and the whole question surrounding not only the NPA, but also looking at the entire investigative unit, the Scorpions, for example. Now, obviously, these are issues that basically stand out like a sore thumb at this point in time in terms of neutralizing capacity that you have been speaking about. I think we have, for some reason or the other.
Am I with you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it could be Jacob Zuma's friend seeing to it that this interview doesn't go any further. But we seem to be back online, and you're quite right. The capacity of the National Prosecuting Authority to do its work properly was hollowed out right from the minute that Jacob Zuma was voted into the presidency of the ANC at Polokwane in 2007. He saw to it that the Scorpions were disbanded as quickly as possible. Their investigative capacity was reversed into the police service in the form of this Hawks unit that has never caught a big fish at any stage in its entire existence. And it has been litigated about to such an extent that the highest court in the land has described, for the benefit of government, what the anti-corruption machinery of state should look like, what criteria have to be met to be effective. And those criteria currently are not met by the Hawks on any front, and certainly not met by the prosecution service when it comes to the ability to act independently. The criteria we call the STIRS criteria. I think it's worthwhile just taking your audience through it quickly. STIRS is an acronym that was invented after the court intervened in this mess in the criminal justice administration. And the letters of STIRS stand for specialized, properly trained, completely independent, resourced in a manner that is sustainable, and, most important of all, enjoying secure tenure of office. Secure tenure of office was the one thing that the Scorpions did not have. They were an effective and efficient anti-corruption body, but they were a mere creature of an ordinary statute. They came into existence not because of the Constitution, but because Parliament passed an ordinary law creating them. And then when Zuma came to power, it passed another ordinary law disbanding them. And if Ace Magashule, who's taking a leaf out of the Jacob Zuma playbook as we speak, establishing branches everywhere, if he takes the same course as Jacob Zuma, then what the president has in mind in terms of his SONA announcement is a statutory body that reports to Parliament and deals with the corrupt. The problem is that when Cyril Ramaphosa is no longer president, and that may be after 2 terms, or it may be after 2 weeks, we don't know. But when he is no longer president, it will be open to somebody who thinks like Jacob Zuma to simply disband the body that he has in mind. That is not what you can call secure tenure of office. The way to secure tenure of office is to put this function under the umbrella of Chapter 9 of the Constitution. And the reason for that is that all of our 6 Chapter 9 institutions, the Public Protector, Human Rights Commission, the Auditor General, Electoral Commission, and so on, they are there by reason of inclusion in the Constitution, and they can only be closed down by a 2/3 majority in Parliament. Now, at the moment, the ANC has 57%. The indications are that it will have less the next time there's an election. And it certainly won't have the 2/3 majority that would be required to nobble the anti-corruption efforts of the state in the way that it has been done in the Zuma mistake.
Advocate Hoffman, there was a lot of hope when the president appointed Shamila Batoy to head the NPA. But as the NPA stands at this point in time, and you make mention of this in your opinion piece, talking about how paralyzed the prosecutors are at this point in time. And obviously this is of concern because we could be sitting with a problem still for years to come until the NPA is basically cleaned out.
Yes, trying to solve the problem by cleaning the Zuma lists out of the NPA will take years and years. It will take lots of disciplinary investigations. It will take lots of energy. It will take lots of public funds. The solution that we suggest at Accountability Now is to sidestep that problem and to create an all-new institution that is capable of being STIRS compliant and dealing with corruption. And we're in good company because the National Executive Committee of the ANC has asked for just such a body. And the only aspect of it on which there is still doubt or lack of take-up is this question of secure tenure of office. So when the president announces in Parliament that he's aiming at creating a statutory body, I throw up my hands in horror and say that that's going to be no better than the Scorpions were. It might be able to do its job very well, but it's vulnerable to being closed down if Ace wins the next presidential election, or even if Didi Mabuza is retained as president after Cyril's term ends. So we really do need to concentrate carefully on what the court has required of the government in relation to anti-corruption machinery of state. And the way to do that is to look at the STIRS criteria and go through your tick box exercise to see that anything that is put on the table is in fact compliant with all of those specialized, trained, independent, resourced, and secure requirements. If you get that right, that new unit will be able to deal with things that are just not gotten to by Batoyi and her beleaguered colleagues. And I don't envy her position for a minute. It must be very difficult to run an organization that is harboring what they call saboteurs. It's not my word, it's Hermione Cronje's word. There are saboteurs in the NPA who make dockets disappear, who do things to trip up investigations, who throw cases. You look at the Bongo Bongani debacle going on in the High Court in Cape Town at the moment, you can see that actually acting without fear, without favor, and without prejudice is foreign to too many people who are in the employ of the NPA at the moment.
Yes, and just finally, it's all about a question of integrity and the political will to do something, because at this point in time, as you mentioned, with what is going on within the NPA, dockets disappearing and the like, there are very, very few cases that have made it to court. And more importantly, in terms of convictions, which is what the public is looking at this point in time. It's pointless having all these commissions playing out in the background, spending millions and millions of rands into finding out what has actually happened, when nothing at the end of the day comes out of it, and the matters don't even go to court, and they don't have the day in court.
Yes, no, I think you're absolutely right. The public of South Africa is hungry for the issuing of orange overalls, and that is not going to happen if the current machinery of state is left in place to deal with grand corruption. You need a specialized body. The NEC has recognized it. The president is all but there. He's recognized that the body must report to Parliament. He's recognized that it's going to require a new institution to do it, which is a very big breakthrough. He's recognized the idea of a single standalone entity, which is something that the ANC has not embraced. They've gone for the multi-agency approach in the Zuma years so that you could pass the buck around until the buck was exhausted. That isn't going to happen when there is a single agency. And if that single agency is STIRS compliant, we can look forward to the people who deserve orange overalls getting them.
Well, Advocate Paul Hoffman, thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning here on Salam Media on News and Views. All the best to you, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you, your listeners, and your viewers.
Advocate Paul Hoffman joining us this morning, Director of Accountability Now. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back.